Merril Hoge dropped like 4 or 5 nuggets in there. Hey, Lucy, you got a lot of explaining to do. Man, give me his FBI, football intelligence. Oh, you're an idiot. There is no play for 4th and 30. There is no play.
Cut to it, cut to it. Let's get down to it. Cut to it, cut to it, cut to it. Let's get down to it.
All right, so I got to say this. Listen, I'm running this clip, and it has nothing to do with Skip Bayless. I'm not trying to trash Skip Bayless. To be honest, I don't really care who it is. The reason I'm bringing this up is because, one, Merril Hoge, I respect the heck out of him. Great dude, right? I met him several times. Great dude, right? Understands the game. Not every former player understands the game. I'm not saying that I have all the answers, but I also know what a football player looks like, right? I can, whether you like it or not, I look at a football player, I watch his film, and I develop my opinion about that individual. You can never always know what a player is going to turn out to be because you also don't know who's on the coaching staff. How good is the coaching staff? How competent is the coaching staff? How bad is the coaching staff? You never know, right? But I can tell you this. Why, before we play this, I've noticed there are some former players who get paid this much. And there are some TV personalities who do sports talk who get paid that much, and they can't tell you what a slant is, a comeback. All I'm trying to say is, let's watch the clip and let's just talk about the different perspectives and how confident the non-football player is in his assessment of basically talking to some people he deems as experts. Now, I love this clip because it also shows Cliff Kingsbury, who Cliff Kingsbury has gotten job after job after job, and yet has won nothing. And some people will say, well, Steve, you won nothing either. You're right, I haven't. I've never been a head coach, don't want to be a head coach. Also, don't sit here and say that I have a prolific offense. I haven't been hired as an offensive coordinator or a head coach who year after year does the bare minimum, who has been hired through colleges and pro teams and has done pretty much the same everywhere he's been. Average. A little bit above average. Above 500. So let's run a clip.
So you are going bust.
If he's a first round, shoot, even like really a top 3 rounds. He's a 5th or 6th round grade. If you have a compensatory pick, grabbed him there. But not in the first round.
I'm sorry, I got a question. Are you saying that Johnny Manziel may not even be worth a pick in the first 3 rounds?
Oh, I wouldn't. The project is so massive. There are so many major flaws.
So what are your thoughts about people who believe he should be the first overall pick in the draft?
Listen, obviously it's not a perfect science, but I think people who would take him in the first round,
If you
took it first overall, I would think that staff would be gone in 2 years, and whoever made that pick would be gone in 2 years. You don't make that pick based on the other players that are available to you. You make that pick, we got to question your evaluating players and their transition and their ability to transition to the National Football League very highly.
Merril Hoge, with all due respect, you have never, ever been more wrong in your assessment of a football player than you just were about Johnny Manziel. Not only will Houston forever regret if they don't take Johnny with the first overall pick, but he won't be a bust. He's going to be a franchise player. He's going to be a star. He will make Pro Bowls. Cliff Kingsbury, do you know Cliff, or have you crossed his path? Cliff played some pro football. He was Johnny's quarterback coach as a freshman, now the head coach at Texas Tech. When I asked Cliff, will these skills translate to pro football, he chuckled for about a minute at me on the phone. Chuckled. He said, Skip, he's going to be a star.
Quickly, where should he go then?
Well, not number one. I would
All
take
right.
Khalil Mack in a heartbeat over him, and I wouldn't even sweat about it. And I will have a much, even if he develops, he's still not going to be better than Khalil Mack as a football player.
It's what I love about this time of the year. It's take season, and they live forever. And people are going to be right. People are going to be wrong. I actually think the Clowney take is more impressive from Merril.
Yeah.
Because he was as can't miss as can be to a lot of people. And there were a couple of people banging the drum for Khalil Mack heading up to that, who just had the Raiders GM job.
That was
From NFL Network.
Yeah, that was Mike Mayock.
Yeah, Mayock was a big Khalil Mack guy too, which was part of the reason he got the Raiders job. So there were people who said it, but
I mean, I think that was I believe that Khalil Mack was a pretty good pick.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable pick. But to be like he's better than Clowney when Clowney was like slam dunk lock number one, and then for it to bear out that way is unbelievable. But yeah,
why do you believe it's unbelievable? From your standpoint.
I think from my standpoint, it's like when watching Clowney, the things he did at South Carolina,
which was remarkable.
Yeah, it's like, okay, I think it was more, can Mac be as good as Clowney? Yeah, I don't think that's crazy. But to see Clowney be more of like an edge setter, not really a get after the quarterback guy, not a huge sack guy. Like he still gets his pressures, of course, but I think he was coming into the league as this generational pass rusher. That's what he was billed as by the pundits and people with eyes who watched him. Was it Mike Hart? He almost stopped his heart in the backfield in that Michigan South Carolina game. You know what I mean? Those and I don't know many of us who are watching Buffalo highlight, college Buffalo, not Buffalo Bills highlights. You know what I mean? So it was like, all right, Khalil Mack wasn't this hulking figure. He didn't have the crazy height, didn't have the crazy measurables like Clowney did as well. So I think that's why someone banging the drum against the consensus. I think that's what's impressive to me. When the consensus is, this guy's surefire number one, da-da-da-da. So to go against the consensus that loudly and be like, I think this guy going third or fourth is actually way better than number one is super impressive to me.
Well, here's one of the things that here's why. So there's some things in there that Merril Hoge says that Skip is talking about. When you have to ask someone else, will someone else's game translate? To me, that's a red flag.
Yeah, you already don't know.
That is correct. Now, not everybody knows all the answers. I don't know all the answers. I'm not Jesus. I don't know all the answers. I'm not perfect. Hey, just Google me. I'm not perfect. But what I think and what I see and what I hear is the guys sitting all of them are sitting in suits. But the two guys that are sitting in suits, they sit in studio. That's why going to these pro days for me is extremely important and why I love going to these pro days. Because see, when you go to a pro day and when you phone someone, I love to go to pro days because, first of all, I grew up in Los Angeles, California. I grew up in the hood. And no, I'm not a thug. But growing up for me in particular, growing up on 126 at Avalon, I saw a lot of things that I wish I did not see. But also learned a lot of things I wish I did not learn. And one of those things that I've learned that's really helped me in life? I've learned how to read people. Mm-hmm. And I've learned how to read people in person, not over the phone, right? Because when you BS with somebody, you can tell them anything you want. Bro, I try to listen and watch people so much. I sometimes can tell over the phone when I hear somebody's voice change. I can hear how they smile, right? But I'm also saying I love going to the pro days because I can see when someone's trying to sell me a bill of goods. I can smell and feel when they're selling me a bill of goods. But I also can feel and smell like, man, something different about this guy. And you also get information. And things are revealed to you that you don't have to go check and call somebody. What I'm calling somebody because I said, I saw this, this, this. Now I'm going to ask this individual after I've been there. Did I read this wrong? Did I see this right? And watching a football player, watching a guy on television, you don't get the real sense of who they are.
Mm-hmm.
Just like you don't get the real sense of an individual, good or bad, right? Like we watch all the time. We watch people go, oh, man, I love to have lunch with them. And they say, oh, man, I met this person in life, and they're the worst person ever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or they're like, man, I met this person, nicest person ever. Right? Or sometimes, especially when people don't even, or they forget to tell the whole story or give their version of what is accurate to benefit them in that story. Right? There's people that I'll throw myself out there. There's people who say, man, I met Steve in real life, man, he's a this. And I probably was at that moment that you met me. If we were in the bathroom, using the bathroom, bro, I don't talk to people in the restroom. That's one of my pet peeves. I don't talk at the urinal. I'm just not doing it. If I'm out with my family at times at a restaurant, I don't conversate with stranger. I believe in stranger danger.
Right. Don't come up to my table.
Do not come up to my table and say this. I hate to interrupt because you know what I've said at times?
No, you don't.
Well, why are you?
Yeah, right.
Why are you interrupting my meal? I've got sidetracked, but what I'm coming back to is this is not to talk bad about Skip Bayless. This is to more show you the people who actually have played the game, who have taken the time and enjoy the evaluation process. I was told from someone for the when I did for Underdog, when we talked about the court, all the players, somebody told me, oh, Steve's throwing shade. Steve's an idiot. He doesn't know anything. And you know, I've just released my wide receiver stocks, the gang of misfits. And there's two guys on that stock wide receiver chart who are trending down. And I've talked to several teams. You know what they said? At the combine, didn't do great. But you look at some people's tweets at the combine, says, oh, Steve, he looks super athletic. Never said he wasn't athletic.
Right.
I'm just telling you what they're telling me. I've heard someone talk about the other quarterback, C.J. Stroud. They said C.J. Stroud against the Georgia game. If you watch, they say he's a leader. He is a leader. But in the first half against the Georgia game, C.J. Stroud looked down in that game. Now, he brought him back and played it 4 quarters of football, he was average. 2 quarters of football, he was outstanding. But there's also 2 quarters of football, he didn't look very good.
Right.
He was on the sideline, slouched down, sitting by himself. Didn't look like the great leader that he is. But that's why you see people in person to be able to watch their mannerisms. And I'm bringing all this up in Johnny Manziel because, you know, James Palmer talked about it. He got a Netflix special coming out that's going to explain a lot of stuff about Johnny Manziel that explains to you, as a great philosopher named Lucille Ball had to do to her husband, Ricky Ricardo. Hey, Lucy, you got a lot of explaining to do. And Skip just goes on this. You have no idea. Merril Hoge was not known for being this Pro Bowl fullback, running back that Everybody knew as, man, he's a shoe, and he was not. But Merril Hoge knew how to play the game from the shoulders up.
Right.
And when you know how to play the game from the shoulders up, man, the way you look at ball is just different. The way you evaluate ball is different.
I think that's what this clip shows really well is like the layers of scouting of / evaluating that's happening. Because if you think of Skip specifically, who are two quarterbacks in the last 15 years he's really banged the table for? It's Johnny Manziel and it's Tim Tebow. Now, what did those two guys do exceptionally well? Is they won at college. They won nationally televised games. And you can kind of see it a little bit with Stroud because there's a lot of people who only reference that Georgia game. And the fact that he was able to keep it close against the back-to-back defending champs when so many other teams could not. It's very surface level scouting. He looked at Tim Tebow and he was like, this is a winner. I don't care how it looks.
And Tim Tebow is a winner.
Absolutely.
In college.
Absolutely. And Johnny Manziel beating Alabama was enough for a lot of people. They didn't care about the height. They didn't care about the off the field sides of things.
What off the field?
I'll let Netflix tell it. That's not for me to say.
Sidewalk chalk. that hopscotch liner. Sorry. You never heard Book of Sugar?
No, that one I have. The last one I had not.
That sidewalk chalk?
No, the specifically hopscotch liner. I like that a lot. But yeah, it's that surface level scouting. Whereas Merril Hoge was like, listen, man, this is not going to work at the next level at all. Maybe, although to his credit, he didn't even say that. He said, I got a 3rd, 4th round grade on him. Maybe if the right coaching staff gets with him, maybe if he gets on the straight and narrow, maybe clearly he has the physical traits. You know what I mean? It was never a physical question with Manziel. It was in between the ears, which if you're only watching him beat Alabama, you don't know the in between the ears stuff.
What happened to that coaching staff?
In the Cleveland?
Yeah. They were all fired 2-3 years later.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Fired. And what's interesting, the evaluators, even in that year with Johnny Manziel, they had other mistakes a year before that.
Oh, yeah. They took Gilbert, the cornerback, out of Oklahoma that did not pan out.
No, I think he was from –
Or was that the Manziel draft?
Yeah,
No,
Gilbert was from – You're talking about Gilbert Arenas' nephew? Is that Gilbert you're talking about?
No, I don't think so. Justin Gilbert.
Oh, okay.
The Browns took him, I believe, 8th.
Yeah, I know you're talking about. Yeah. Well, didn't they also, like a couple years later, get Trent? They got the running back.
Oh yeah,
Trent
sure
Richardson. Mm-hmm. Yep. He couldn't hit a hole. He could not see the hole if the hole was in his face right here.
It often was.
Where? Where? What hat? I don't see a hat. Who did they take? Then they took some other.
I mean, it's the Browns. Yeah, the draft is not where they usually.
They're doing better now.
The past couple of years they've done better.
Yeah, they have.
But I mean, they talk about consensus. They took Baker over Josh Allen, and I think that also goes back to you got to give the Bills a lot of credit. I know. You got to give the Bills a lot of credit because I don't know that Josh Allen is Josh Allen if the Browns do take him 1 overall because of the coaching.
Yes, but here's the thing that a lot of people are not talking about because they don't know because they're sitting in the studio. Now, I know because I've talked to that organization and those coaches. And one of the overall themes that I've heard between the quarterback coach, the former offensive coordinator that's now the head coach for the New York Giants, Brian Daboll, is the Buffalo Bills get a lot of credit for drafting him and working with him. But you know who they say put in so much work to improve his touch, improve his ability to place the football? is Josh Allen. They said
Absolutely.
Josh Allen has worked on his footwork. He worked on his ball placement. It isn't, hey, I worked on it, I hired somebody. He's went out, evaluated his own film, goes over his stuff over and over again, puts in the work, and listens and is coachable. Like everybody up there says, man, we have a great coaching staff. But we got to give a lot of credit to Josh Allen because he's also pushed himself and worked on this game.
Absolutely. And I don't want to take away from Josh Allen because, I mean, if I had the same coaching staff, I'm not one of the best quarterbacks in the league. You know what I mean?
Absolutely not.
There's a lot of.
I appreciate you saying that because a lot of times, right, coaches get credit for coaching up some players that sometimes those players were really good before you got there.
Right.
And have continued to be better when that coach moves on. Like I go back and look at some coaches and they're talking about, oh man, this coach helped this guy go to the Pro Bowl. And then I watch him in camp and I'm like, man, this coach ain't coached nobody. Like all the coaches doing is say, hey man, you got to post. He isn't teaching them technique. He isn't teaching them how to win.
Right. But where I do think the Bills deserve credit, especially juxtaposed to the Browns, is you see it a lot there. We talk about the coaching turnover. So if the people who took Josh Allen, if he had the same rookie year he had in Buffalo, that coaching staff probably still has that turnover. And then if the new GM, the new regime comes in, even if he does apply himself, put in all that work, they may have gone, you're not our guy, we're trading you. You know what I mean? And he ends up with San Francisco, wherever. And it's like, all right, now this team reaps all the benefits. He still does all the hard work. But we've seen time and time again, new regimes come in, new coaches come in. They're not necessarily going with the same guy no matter what. So I think both parties, Josh Allen and the Bills, deserve equal credit.
Well, I was talking to a coach. I was actually talking to Pete Carroll. And I asked Pete Carroll, I said, you know, Pete, first of all, I called him Coach Carroll, and he goes, no, you can call me Pete. I was like, all right, cool, right? Because I was like, I never really interacted with him,
right?
So I really wasn't sure. And I just said, Coach, what do you do when, you know, like he was talking about Drew Lock. He was like, man, Steve, when we got Drew Lock from Denver, he was so beat up emotionally.
I bet.
That we had to come in and just say, look, we want you to be you. Right? And I've heard this and I've experienced this. Not every coach, not every organization wants you to be you. They want you to fit in to their organization. They don't want you to say, hey, we want you and whoever you are fits into our organization. They go, no, we don't want to hear you. We don't care what your favorite coach. I don't know if I mentioned this, but I heard a general manager tell a guy they were recruiting out of free agency. They brought him in free agency. They're going to pay him. And the general manager and the head coach told him, hey, don't expect a Christmas card from me. You're here to play football. Now, I don't really know how to take that.
Right.
But that's kind of not the thing on a recruiting trip in free agency. Hey, we just want you to play football. Don't expect a Christmas card. I mean, I'm not thinking about Christmas in free agency in March.
Right.
But what compels a coach and a general manager to tell you that? Bro, I'm moving my family from the old city to the new city, and you tell me don't expect. What should I expect? Well, maybe because you're paying me, I shouldn't expect anything, and you just should show. Like, it's just become like some people just don't have great people skills.
Right.
And so the Skip Bayless and Merril Hoge, why I'm bringing all of this up, has to do with not all studio people know how to evaluate.
Oh, yeah. Very few.
Yes. And I find it interesting and funny that Skip having a conversation with a overhyped quarterback, like he said, Skip scampered over the line. He said, Cliff Kingsbury, he plays some football in the pros, emphasis on some.
Yeah.
And Johnny Manziel played some football too. But Skip just blew past that stop sign. Red stop sign says, dead end. No, Merril Hoge, you have no idea what you're talking about. I know because Cliff Kingsbury chuckled for a minute. So he was just dismissive of Merril Hoge. He didn't go, hey, well, what do you mean? Elaborate on that. And again, I respect Skip. I don't have anything good or bad to say about him. I've had great interactions with him. Has he been a little tough? That's his whole shtick. But
right, that's part of it that I like. How do we factor that in? Because obviously he's got a product to sell.
Yes, he does have a product to sell. But I'm not going out on a limb. But I could probably. This wouldn't be a shot at Skip. Man, Skip couldn't analyze two people double Dutch jumping and know what an athlete is or isn't. In the evaluation process. I mean, anybody could run or jump, but I'm talking about give me his FBI, football intelligence. Tell me what zone coverage is. Don't tell me what somebody told you what zone coverage is. Like, what do you know? Can you draw up zone coverage?
No, definitely not.
Can you tell someone how to run a curl route 4 different ways? And my point of all of this is saying, mastering the craft of football or basketball, right? Things are a skill. But just because you've practiced it or you put in 10,000 hours doesn't necessarily mean that you've mastered the skill.
Definitely.
Just because you can formulate a good sentence and you can get in and out of a break and you are a great host doesn't mean, just because you're a sports talk radio doesn't mean all of a sudden now you could go ahead and run a show on Jeopardy.
Right.
It's too different. It's apples and oranges.
This is Bandit. He founded Underdog Fantasy so that humans who really love sports could play with their friends and win some big prizes. Tell your human to go to underdogfantasy.com today.
Well, I mean, even let's go to the top of the sport. I think we both agree Bill Belichick's got a pretty decent football mind, right?
A little bit.
Yeah, he's a little bit. He gets draft picks wrong all the time. There's no
say it ain't so, bro. Are you sure?
I promise you, it's happened once or twice.
Yeah, sorry,
it's hard. Yeah, no, listen. It happens. So it's the guy on TV. And if we go to another sport, how has Skip Bayless made his nut? He's been
excuse me. Whoa.
Yeah, made his nut. How has he made? Why did Fox Sports pay him tens of millions of dollars? Because he's been actively telling you that the second or third best basketball player of all time isn't actually that good. So it's what are we doing here?
No. Yeah, it's just I'm not jumping off the top rope on Skip Bayless. I'm more coming to Merril Hoge's defense because we want to talk about Skip Bayless was wrong, but we don't want to factor in Merril Hoge's dropped 4 or 5 nuggets in there now that today, bump Johnny Manziel. How about the fact that he compared to Davion Clowney and Khalil Mack?
Yeah.
And here's the thing about Jadeveon Clowney. Jadeveon Clowney is a damn good football player.
Oh, yeah.
Jadeveon Clowney impacts a game that rarely is on the stat. Like his ability to penetrate, to get inside, to make a toss go the other way, to break up a pass, or bat down a ball, or make the quarterback get off the spot, or make the quarterback, because of his presence, because of how tall he is, or the way he gets into the backfield, to make the quarterback get off his first or second read, or to get off his spot and abandon the play altogether. Well, you rarely hear Skip Bayless evaluate that way.
Right.
He'll give you the hit in college in the Outback Bowl in Florida that knocked the running back's helmet off. But there were so many other plays too that Jadeveon Clowney at times took several plays off.
Oh, yeah.
And hence why he's also a little bit still unemployed today.
I was going to say, it happens every offseason. He's one of the last people signed. He goes out. He has pretty much the same season every year, which is good. Like, good football player. Yeah, very consistent. I believe he's always graded. Shout out our best friends, PFF. They definitely know your name. I believe he grades very well against the run all the time. And it's like when I hear him, I think of Richard Seymour. Richard Seymour was not a guy who went out and got crazy sack numbers, but that also wasn't what he was asked to do. Clowney plays opposite of Myles Garrett, one of the best edge rushers in football. Of course, his job isn't to go after the quarterback play after play. He has a different set of skills. He has a different job description.
Here's what I would say to evaluate. His motor's a little bit different.
Definitely.
He's not a high octane motor guy. Just not. And that's why he's been on several teams.
Right.
Because there's a question of which Jadeveon Clowney are we going to get today?
Well, it's a two-factor thing. It's that, and he always asks for, which he should. I'm not knocking a guy. He always asks for top-of-the-market money. And most teams are like, that math doesn't jive with us, which is why he ends up signing perpetual one-year deals.
And he only stays with a team 1 or 2 years.
Yeah.
So, but hey,
who's someone? I mean, obviously, everyone at this point knows you for the Cooper banging the table for Cooper Kupp. Mm-hmm. Who's someone you've just been like way off on for a receiver since you've started this evaluating gig? Has there been anyone?
First of all, I don't know who's. If people are telling, what's interesting is I'll break down one guy, and then somebody get in my mentions and tell me break down this guy. Well, no, I'm going to break down the guys that I have, right. Because there's also, like I was talking to a guy this weekend, who I was explaining to him. There were 50 wide receivers invited to the combine. If every team just drafts one wide receiver, guess what? There's a few other guys that are SOL, aren't they?
Oh, yeah.
And that individual's like, I never thought about that. You never thought about that. So there are like 2 or 3 players that people are saying, oh, this guy can play, this guy. They all can play.
Right.
They're not all sleepers. They're not all the best receivers. And some of these receivers, man, you get them in some of these systems, and they're going to be fantastic players. The reason why I was so infatuated with Cooper Kupp was because this was a kid, I think it was Eastern Washington?
Yeah.
That when I was watching his film, I was just going, man, he's really impressive. Right? I had in the same year, I think there was Juju Smith-Schuster, or a couple years before, Juju Smith-Schuster. Someone asked me, hey, you think Juju would be that type of player on our team? I don't know, because your offense wasn't that type of offense. At the time, you didn't have AB. You didn't have Big Ben. You didn't have that type of offense where you had that fluidity to be able to have that type of pass-heavy offense. You didn't have the AB on that team as a 1A that allowed Juju to go to work the way he did in the slot. So it's so many factors into things, right? So there's a kid, Parker Washington.
Yeah, from Penn State.
Yes. I like him. He's not a sleeper in my opinion. You know, where he becomes the sleeper is where he's drafted.
Right. Which right now, I think, like the consensus board has him in like pick 110, somewhere around there.
Mm-hmm. So that, you know, you telling me this kid goes to the Washington Commanders, I'll be interested, because you already have you got a running game. Now the quarterback is the issue. How is that going to pan out? Do they put him in a slot? Do they put him outside? Was that Ronnie Bell, I think, from Michigan? He's a kid.
Purdue.
No.
Is it Purdue?
No, he's
I'm thinking of Bell a different year. My apologies.
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, that's what we got each other's back. It's fine.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Ronnie Bell, he tore his knee. Right. He hasn't looked like the player he used to look like. He's a guy that's I can see him playing 7 or 8 years, 9 or 10 years, right? Having a pretty stellar career, right? Being consistent, maybe go to a Pro Bowl here and there, and end it, calling it a day.
Mm-hmm.
It just all depends, right? Let's see.
Well, right now, I mean, since you put out your stock, watching the conversation, because the draft season takes forever, and
I know,
guys go up and down. Whether or not they've left their house in a week, they go up and down.
Oh, yeah.
And now you're starting to see the conversation go, a lot of these top of the board receivers, they're short. And Cedric Tillman and Jonathan Mingo are not short. So you're starting to see them kind of climb a little bit.
Yes. Here's why. So in the beginning, when you have, I keep using Quentin Johnson as an example, and some people think I dislike him. I don't dislike him. I'm using him as an example to show you early projections do not always mean that those projections will stay that way.
Correct.
He was ranked a top 10 player, not receiver. Player. The first overall pick was not supposed to be a quarterback at the beginning of the year. Who was it supposed to be?
Will Anderson.
And who else?
Jalen Carter.
And what's happening?
They're sliding.
Why?
Because
various, but also
also Jalen Carter,
yes, various reasons. Jalen Carter, you know what I heard? Would you like to know what I heard?
Let's hear it.
He doesn't like to practice.
Mm-hmm.
And he got in some trouble. Okay, so practicing is pretty important for a rookie.
Well, I have a question about that, the practice specifically, because, and this is going to be quite the comparison, so be ready.
Uh-oh.
Lawrence Taylor refused to practice, refused to look at film, put his head down during film sessions. The best linebacker of all time.
Yeah.
So how do you weigh that when you're talking about a true assumed blue chip prospect like Carter, who we've just seen be an anchor for two of the best college defenses of all time, where, like, obviously as a rookie, I don't know if Lawrence Taylor was pulling the same stuff he was year 4. You know what I mean?
So here's the difference. Times have changed.
Definitely a factor.
Is it fair to say, and I've met Lawrence Taylor, LT, have a I respect the mess out of him. Lawrence Taylor's a different breed too now.
For sure.
Like, when I say different breed, I don't care what this kid turns out to be, he ain't Lawrence Taylor.
Definitely.
And
yeah,
there's
one of one.
Yes, one of one. He may turn out to be one of the best D tackles to ever play the game, or he may not be. I have no idea. But I can tell you the traits of some of the best players. And you know what they say? One, gamer. And most of the time when those guys did want to practice, they took over practice.
Okay.
Okay? Like, when Lawrence Taylor wanted to practice, he was unguardable.
Right. He was Lawrence Taylor. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I haven't heard any mythological stories about Carter being unguardable ever. That's
Definitely a factor. Yeah, no, definitely
right?
a factor.
And so I don't know what he will be, but to call him already say that, like Skip says that he's going to be a anchor and a franchise superstar. I don't know.
Right.
But I'm not just going to give him that. I'm not going to give him that star to wear, right? I'm not going to give him that honorary badge. I'm also not going to poop on him, but I'm also not going to say that I've never seen anyone ever, Quentin Johnson. I've never seen a 6'9" wingspan receiver ever in my time. I've never seen a guy 6'2" that could run like lightning. Yeah, I have.
Right.
And let me tell you, he didn't look like him. Right? They said, oh, he reminds me of Megatron. Go back and look at Megatron's highlights at Georgia Tech. He didn't look like Quentin Johnson.
No.
Go look at Randy Moss's, all his film at all the different schools. Didn't look like Quentin Johnson. Right?
How much should people weigh into what their teammates say about them?
It's a lot.
Okay.
It's a lot you should weigh into. My teammate said I was tough to deal with, but I was also I went 100 miles per hour in practice. If you wasn't giving me good practice, you was going to get this work. So that's the evaluation process. You have to adhere to what all the chatter is saying, right? And there's a lot of chatter about players that you'll never hear about, that former players and guys like me hear about and talking to general managers and coaches that I will never say, but I'm telling you, man, there's a lot of untold stories about players and their work ethic, good and bad. That's why sometimes people on television, but also times that people that are not on television who are in the football world, that they go, right? I had a coach tell me at the combine, he said, man, a coach said, who do you like? What guys do you like? I said, well, here's the guys I like. I said, coach, how do you not know about these players? He said, look, I was at the Senior Bowl. I was here. So I've only been able to see the players that have been physically in front of me. I've been on the road since, playing since the last game of playing in the playoffs, had to go to Senior Bowl, had to go to these bowl games. So I haven't been able to look at all these prospects. I was like, oh, wow. Okay. Makes sense. So He said, I'm looking at these, and then when I get home and I get back into the office, then I get to dig deep and get into the weeds and get stuck in the details. And I was like, oh, and that's why guys are sliding. Somebody told me about Jalen Hyde, the Tennessee receiver.
Yeah.
They said, man, he looked disengaged at the combine. He looked like a guy that was not prepared and ready. They said he looked like he just woke up. They said he wasn't the speedster that we saw on film. He didn't run a fast time than we expected. That's why some guys like John Ross, man, we knew it was fast, but goodness gracious. When I was looking at John Ross, bro, I looked at John Ross and I get, man, He can run. But contested catches, don't see it. Against big-time corners, he can outrun them. But if they get their hands on him, no suspect.
Is contested catches the trait you think tells you which guy's going to translate the best, or is it a multitude of things?
There's a multitude of things, but what it does, it tells me what it is. I got I left it in the house. I left it in there, but I got this paper that has like all these things. They like catching, do they let the ball come into their chest? Or, do they sit their hips? Do they do this? Do they do that? And it's just a list of things that I'm like, wow. That I go, man, I didn't realize they're looking at everything.
Right.
When I was coming out of college, I had to fill out a credit report with my social security number and my birth date and all that stuff. And they look at, well, does he pay his bills on time? Like they have, it is crazy. Like they know things. I'm like, man, so why didn't you pay that? Listen, you got a $55 Pac Bell. Remember Pac Bell?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, Pacific. You got a $55 Pacific Bell bill that you haven't paid when you were in Los Angeles. Why haven't you paid it? I'm going, I do.
It's news to me.
Yeah, appreciate it. Now, when I moved and had to buy a house, right, before the recession, they let all these other people get, without paying their bills. Man, I had to pay, I think I owed like $7,500 in bills I had. No, I wasn't that. I don't remember. I just remember I had to pay all these little bills that I had that I didn't even realize.
Right.
The telephone bill in college that man, I'm out. I got drafted. See y'all boys later.
It's a Utah problem. Yeah,
that's a Utah problem. No, that Utah problem followed me.
Oh man, what have you seen change from, or what's the biggest change from when you were coming out to now in terms of the evaluation process?
I think we overhype guys way too early, and then when we pull it back, it's coming across as shade, or it's coming across as, oh, you don't like them, or you're jealous of them, or why are you always criticizing these kids? This is an evaluation process, right? You can't be super athletic and then drop an easy pass. Like on my stocks, there's guys like Tank Dell, right? Tank Dell is not moving up the charts, bro. He's kind of like staying steady Eddie. The question is, where's that steady Eddie? I think he's kind of dropped in that second and third because 175 pounds, right? There's film out there where, he went against Sauce Gardner. He did. And he was off the ball in motion. Now, yeah, he looked good at the Senior Bowl going against one-on-ones. But some of the corners at the Senior Bowls he didn't go against Porter Jr. He didn't go against Gonzalez. He didn't go against Witherspoon. He didn't go against, there's a kid I'm looking at right now who's kind of been about Julius.
Brents.
Bro. He is not going to be able to run with anyone, but he can play coverage. He can play coverage. He'll come up and run. He's not a 4-3 guy.
Okay.
Right? I don't believe he's going to run step with Zay Jones.
Sure. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. He's just got the crazy length.
Yes, he does. You know who blew by him but could not make the contested catch?
Quentin Johnson.
Yes. Here's what I heard with Quentin Johnson that people are telling me. 6'2", 6'9" wingspan. Against top tier, first, second round draft picks, my man went MIA. Against the nobodies, against McNeese State, all world, went off. But against big time guys, the championship game against Georgia, how many yards did he have? Wasn't 200, I can tell you that.
Yeah, no, wasn't many.
And they were throwing the ball a lot, weren't they?
They were down immediately.
Immediately. You know why they? You know
I was
why
going to say,
they
even in the semifinal, like Michigan's top-ranked corner is 5'8", 5'9", you know what I mean? So it's like, and they were putting him in motion. They were getting him on a lot of cross-field stuff.
You want to know why they put a guy in motion?
What is that?
When they got to get him off that jam. So Z receivers go in motion. X receivers, stationary stand. Can't hide us.
So you brought up Tank, and it's something I've been meaning to ask, and we just never bring him up. During those one-on-ones, the clip that's gone most viral from those one-on-ones, he does this very exaggerated scissor move off the line to get open. How realistic is that will happen in the NFL?
If he tries that scissor move against, say he gets drafted in the AFC, and he tries to do that against Jalen Ramsey or Xavier Howard, he's gonna get his shoulder pads reconstructed, and they're gonna be mended to his body. I don't think he'd be able to use that move consistently.
Right. Because even our boy, Xavier Smith, he had a move. It was like a triple move, and he makes the corner fall down. And it's like, in the NFL, that ball's been out when you've made your first move, like someone else on the field. So it's like, how much on these one-on-ones? Of course, it's great Twitter fodder, stuff like that.
One-on-ones is where you try it. The things that you can do on one-on-one just gives us an example of what a guy can do. The possibility, his creativity, right? Like, just like the things that players do on all-star games, you rarely see them do. The things that players do in a slam dunk contest. You ever seen anybody pull up a Kia and jump over the Kia in the middle of the basketball game?
Sure, yeah.
I mean, so first of all, somebody's going to die if they pull up a Kia in the middle of the game.
There's going to be a lot of problems. Technical foul, probably. Delay a game. There's a lot's going to happen for sure, yeah.
Yes. Right? So one-on-ones is like an all-star game, right?
Okay.
But also one-on-ones tells you tendencies that a player has. Like, can he get off the jam? Or like there's sometimes where he free releases too much. And free release is when you get out too wide and you don't stack, which I say reset. Right? Where you get out wide so much that you allow the corner now to use the sideline as the 12th man.
Yeah, another defender.
Because you run out of real estate. And that's why on practice fields, they draw this white line or this red line to say, don't get outside of that. Leave room for the quarterback.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yes. So there's somebody on Twitter that says, Steve, what do you mean he disappointed and left his luggage? What the blank does that mean? Keep your eyes on your luggage means stay focused on your task and don't keep your eyes on the luggage is what every fan in college says when it's 2-minute drill or the 50 seconds left in the game and they have to do a bomb play and the idiotic corner bites on the double move or let somebody get behind them. That's not keeping your eyes on the luggage. That's when you let your team down, right? Prevent defense.
Right.
Where they go, oh, I'll let them free release and I'll pass them off to the deepest one. Fool, you are the deepest one. That's why prevent defense in college is such a terrible defense. Because
I hate it at all levels. I hate prevent.
Because you get what happens is the corner passes the receiver off to the next guy because that's what he's supposed to do. But everybody's doing that. So you got four verticals. You got corner, nickel, safety, nickel, corner. And so the corner goes, all right, I'll jam him up and release him off sides. And so the quarterback does this. And everybody does this. And forgets, and that's what we call a turkey hole throw.
If I were ever a coach, many things would have to go wrong for that to have happened. But the first thing I'm announcing to the team is we are never playing. I don't care what the score is. We are not playing prevent defense.
Yeah, but when you're down, prevent defense sucks to go against as a wide receiver. Bro, when you're in like the third or the second quarter and you're losing, oh my gosh. Like you can only run so many plays.
Right.
Like it's 3rd and 15. Like I love seeing this. Like, you see the fans that be in the stands talking about, oh, you're an idiot. There is no play for 4th and 30. There is no play. Let me see.
You're just backing up.
You know what 4th and 30 is? 4th and 30 is the play that you have for when your house is about to foreclose. Like there's no instructions for, hey, I'm broke. I don't have any money.
Right.
Like there's no play for that.
Yeah, you're just banking on someone else making a mistake.
Yes.
Like there's nothing you can
like
do.
Fourth and 30 is the, hey, I haven't paid my car note, so I'm just going to keep my car in the garage and hopefully the repo man never finds it.
Right.
Like you're like, what are you doing, man? I'm just hoping he never comes here. Don't open the garage. Don't open the garage.
Yeah, he's circling the block. Don't do it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. Not that I mean, allegedly, I've heard people who've gotten.
Yeah, I've read it in a book once somewhere. Yeah.
I saw a movie.
Cut to it. Let's get down to it.